In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jerusalem, King Joachim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, and said, should bring certain of the children of the Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, skillful in all wisdom, cunning and knowledge, and understanding science, such as has ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and tongues of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah Shadrach, and Mishael Meshach, and Azariah Abednego. Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs, which he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse like ye than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days. Let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenance be looked up upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the meat and the wine, and see it, and deal with thy servants thyself. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. At the end of 10 days, their countenance appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. For as these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learnings and wisdoms. And Daniel had understanding in all visions, dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all of his realm. And Daniel continued even until the 1st year of the king Cyrus. And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, within his spirit was troubled, and his heart brake. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans, for to show him the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled and to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king of Sarak, the king, you live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will share with you the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known to me the dream, with the interpretation thereof ye shall be cut to pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we shall show him the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because you see the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, and ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me. Till the time be changed thereof, tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can shew the king this matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can shew it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry, very furious, commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Daniel answered with the counsel of wisdom to the Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Daniel went in and desired of the king that he should give him time, that he would shew the king the interpretation. Daniel went to his house, and he made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of God of heaven concerning this secret. Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. There was a secret revealed unto Daniel in the night vision. Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for whom wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thy God of my fathers, whom has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto me the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will shew unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man in the captains of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, magicians, and soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and thy visions of the head upon thy head are these. As for the king, O king, thy thoughts came into my mind. Upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter, and that revealeth secrets maketh known unto thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living. For their sakes that shall be made known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightst know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form wherein was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, and his legs of iron, his feet of iron, and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon its feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron and clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like a chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art the king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And whatsoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heavens, hath he given unto thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And a fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh to pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all things shall it break into pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay, part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong, partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle thyself with the seed of men, and they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these things shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break into pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron and brass and clay and silver and gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that he should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of the truth it is that your God is a God of gods, and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many, many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors, of all the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel requested that the king, that he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. And Daniel sat at the gate of the king. Nebuchadnezzar, the great king, an image of gold, whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He he set it up in the plain of Dira, province of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, sent to gather together the princes and governors and the captains, the judges and treasurers and the counselors and the sheriffs and all the rulers of the province to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar, the king, had set up. Then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province were gathered together unto the dedication to the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the name and the image of Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried aloud, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, hear at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackcloth, psaltery, and declaimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image, and knock down and worship, shut up. The same hour be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace." Therefore at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackcloth, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, all the nations and languages, fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king set up. Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and declaimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worship it, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set up over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship thy golden image which thou hast set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought them, these men, before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said unto them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready that art, what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, harp, flute, sackcloth, psaltery, and declaimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king of Nebuchadnezzar, "We are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If we be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up." Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wanting to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that they were in his army, bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. And these men were bound to their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments. They were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flames of the fire slew those men that took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down and bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, "Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire, and answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire. They have no hurts. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spoke and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come forth, come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair on their head singed. Neither were their coats changed, or the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shall be cut to pieces. Their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God in every people, nation, and language. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the province of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar the king unto all people, nations, and languages that dwelleth all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to shew you the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and my visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, and they might make known to me the interpretations of my dream. Then came in the magicians and astrologers and charlatans and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known to me the interpretation thereof. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee, tell me the visions of my dream, that I may have seen an interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached into the heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and it was meat for all. The breast of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the air dwelt in the bough thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, Hew down the tree, cut off the branches, spake off his leaves, and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump and the roots in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the fields, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portions be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the beast basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now that Belteshazzar declared the interpretation thereof, for so as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me my interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods are in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astounded for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof is thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heavens, and the sight thereof of all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwell, and upon the branches of the fowls of the heaven in their habitation. It is thou, O king, that art grown, and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto the heavens, and thy dominion on the earth is every. Whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass, and let the portion be, let it the beast of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and there is the decree of the Most High, which come upon my lord the king. Thou shalt drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts in the field. And thou shalt make thee to eat grass and oxen, and thou shalt wet thee with the dew of heavens, and 7 times shalt pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee, after that thou shalt have known that the heavens be ruled. Whereof the king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. It thee be a lengthening of thy tranquility. This all thus came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, It is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of thy kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from upon heaven, saying, O king Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom departed from thee. And thou shalt drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be in the beasts of fields. And thou shalt make thee to eat grass like an oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou knowest the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and whom was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like feathers of the eagles, and his nails like a bird's claws. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth so forever, whose dominion is the everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he doth according to his will, and the army of heaven, and among all habitations of the earth. And none can stay his hand, or say unto him, What doest thou? At the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom mine hour and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol, honor the kings of heaven. All those works are truth, all his ways judgment. Those who walk in pride is as an abyss. Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to thousands of his lords. He drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, whilst he tasting the wine, commanded to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple, which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was in Jerusalem, and the king and the princes and his wives and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver and brass and iron and wood and stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against the other. Were a stone. The king cried aloud, "Bring in the astrologers and shouted the words of the king." And the king spake and came into the banquet house, and the queen spake wise, and said, "O king, live forever, and show me the interpretation thereof. Shall be troubled thee, nor thy, and have a chain of gold about his neck. There is a man, the third ruler of this kingdom, in whom the spirit of the holy and all the king's wise days of thy fathers could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof of the gods. Then was King Belshazzar, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar greatly troubled, the king, I say, thy father made master of magicians, astrologers, chaldeans, and soothsayers. For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting and dreams and showing hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, whom let Daniel be called, and he will shew the interpretation. Then was Daniel brought in before the king. And the king spake and said unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel which art the children of captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee that the Spirit of God is in thee, and that the light of understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, and they have read this writing, and make known unto me the interpretation thereof, but they cannot show me the interpretation of the thing. And I have need of thee that thou canst make interpretation and dissolve doubts. Now if thou canst read the writing, and make known to me the interpretation thereof, shalt be clothed in scarlet, and have a chain of gold around thy neck, and shalt be the third ruler in the kingdom. And Daniel answered and said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself. Give thy reward to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O thou king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would slew, he would slew. Whom he would keep alive, he would keep alive. Whom he would set up, he would set up. And whom he would put down, he would put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened to pride, he was disposed from his knightly throne, and they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men. His heart was made like that of the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. And they fed with like oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled the kingdom of men, and that he appointeth over it whomever he will. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart. Thou hast knowneth all this, but hast thou lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords and thy wives and thy concubines have drunk wine in them? And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, and wood, and stones. See not, nor hear, nor know. And the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, thou hast glorified not. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was within. And this is the writing that was written, Min Tekel Apersin, which is the interpretation of thus. Min, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Parish, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar that they clothe Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold around his neck and make him proclamations concerning him that he should be a third ruler over the kingdom. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius of the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. It pleased Darius to set up over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these three unto them that the king should have, of whom Daniel was first. Then thus Daniel might give account conferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. They could find none occasion nor fault. For as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the laws of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king, and say thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors, and the princes, the counselors, and the captains, have consulted together to establish royal statutes, and to make a firm decree that whoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which all theirs changed not. Whereas the king Darius signed the writing and the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his window being open in the chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before the God of Israel, as he did aforetime. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they came near to the spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Thou hast not signed a decree, king, that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save, O thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions, O king? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which uttereth not. Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not of thee, O king, nor the decree which thou hast signed, but maketh his petitions before his God 3 times per day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. And these men assembled unto the king, and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. Then the king commanded that they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king said unto Daniel, Thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, and purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel.
Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went to the hastened lion's den. And when he came to the lion's den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thy servant continually able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angels and hath shut them lions' mouths, and they have not hurt me. Forasmuch as before him innocence was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the lion's den. And Daniel was taken up out of the lion's den, no manner of hurt found upon him, because he had believed in God. And the king commanded, and that they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the lion's den, their children and their wives into the lion's den. And the lions had the mastery of them, and brake all their bones in pieces, and every one of them came at the bottom of the den. Then King Darius rode upon all wonders in heaven, nations, languages, had dwelt in Daniel from the power of the lions multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in Darius every dominion, and reign of Cyrus the Persian, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. In the first year of the living God, steadfast forever, and its kingdom shall not be dream and visions, dominion shall not be even till the end of the told the sum of the matter. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh that I saw in my vision by night. And behold, the four winds of the heavens drove upon the great sea. And the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and his head had eagle's wings. He beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet of a man, and this man's heart was given into it. And behold, another beast, a second like of a bear, and it raised up itself, one on each side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth, of it between its teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Rise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which has upon its back of its 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, dominion was given to it. After this I saw the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake to pieces and stamped the residue off the feet of it. And it was diverse from the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by their roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream ensued and came forth from before him. Thousands and thousands ministered unto him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set. The books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. Yet their lives were prolonged for a season at a time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before me. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, and all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, and thou shalt not pass away, and his kingdom that which dwells shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and my visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of the things. These great beasts which are four are the kings which shall rise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of lions, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and had a mouth, and spoke great things, who was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came. Judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it to pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High. They shall take away his dominion to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand unto the times and dividing dominion and the greatness. But the judgment shall sit, the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hereunto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in the vision, it had a great came to pass. Then I saw that it was Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. I saw a vision, and was by a river of the Uliah. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river of Ram, which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, and one was higher than the other, and the higher going up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as it was considering, behold, and a he-goat came from the west, on the face of the whole earth, touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, and it came up to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, ram unto him, and his fury of his power. And I saw him come close upon the ram, and he was moved with close against him, smote the ram, break his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he had cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. There was none that could deliver the ram from out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up forth notable that ones towards the 4 winds of heaven, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south, and towards the east, and towards the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heavens, and it cast down some of the host of the stars of the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. And as host was given him again the daily sacrifice of reason, transgression, cast down, truth to the ground, and praise and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,000 and 3,000 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as an appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice, being the banks of Uliah, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So it came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid. I fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face towards the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. And he said, Behold, I will make known to thee what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand in up out of the nation, not in his power. And in the latter times of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full of king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences, shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and shall practice, and shall destroy, and the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in the hearts, and by himself and peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sickened. Certain days afterwards I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. Book of Daniel, chapters 1 through 8. Holy mackerel. Holy Bible, Authorized King James Version. Son of a gun.
Yeah, this is my Mixcraft.